Many of you will be familiar with how child marriage affects thousands of girls around the world. But how many of you are aware this is happening to girls like me right here in the UK? I was married at the age of 16. I was able to leave my child marriage, but my sister Banaz had her life stolen by so-called honor killing. It all started with a shared traumatic experience. We found ourselves in child marriage that neither of us chose or wanted. In my family, there are 5 girls and 1 boy. And when my sisters and I were between the ages of 7 to 10, we each had to undergo FGM. We were told this was done to protect us from being promiscuous and to prevent us from dishonoring our family name. The notion of honor was introduced to us at a very young age. Growing up in the UK as Iraqi immigrants, balancing 2 very different cultures was at times difficult. In particular, for one of my sisters, Bakel. When she was a teenager, she started to challenge my father on his beliefs and their relationship broke down. She ran away a couple of times and eventually social services got involved and she was taken into care. But of all the social workers who came into our home, not one of them asked me if I was safe. After Bakel left, every trace of her disappeared overnight, as though she never existed. And the community reacted. They cast my family out, and they threatened to throw petrol bombs at our house. My father had lost his status in the community. So in a desperate attempt to regain this, when I was 15 and studying for my GCSEs, my father came to me and he started to talk about marriage. I laughed it off because I thought he was joking, and I didn't really understand the concept of marriage. But from that moment, my father changed. He became very cold towards me, and I felt like he didn't love me anymore. And so a couple of months later, when my sister Banaz was just 17, she had a child marriage to a man much older than her who she didn't know. Banaz dropped out of college, and she moved to Birmingham with her new husband. So I hardly saw of her. But when I did see her, I noticed she became low and she became quiet. She changed as a person. Then when I was 16, the conversation of marriage came up again. This time, my father said, "There's another man who wants to marry you." And being unaware of the consequences, being scared to say no again, I said to my father, "Do what makes you happy." And then it all happened so quickly. One day I was called to the living room by my father. He told me to sit down, pay my respects, and don't speak. I didn't really know how to behave because all my life my family had said, "Don't talk to boys and don't look at boys." Yet all of a sudden, they said, "Here is your husband." So I sat there listening to my father, my mother, and this man. They were just talking about me as though I was an item at an auction sale. I did as I was told, but for just a brief moment I looked up, and the first thing I noticed was that he was so old. He was losing his hair, and I remember thinking, God, he looks like an uncle. Now, I was supposed to have dressed up and really made an effort to meet my husband. But I thought to myself, maybe if I don't, he'll see me and he'll think, I don't want her. But it was too late. The deal had been done, and I was just given away to this man. So the wedding arrangement started, and we went shopping for jewelry and the wedding dress. And every shop that we walked into, my mother showed me expensive gold bangles and necklaces. But I wasn't into any of that. I was a teenager growing up in London, and I loved pop fashion. I looked up to the likes of Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera. But of course, a big, frilly, covered up to the neck wedding dress and kitten heels were chosen for me. I found it so disgusting. I still do. So in the wedding shops, I tried to act like a brat to show that I was a child. And I just wanted to complete my childhood, really, and focus on my education. But I knew deep down there was nothing I could do to stop this. And none of the shopkeepers questioned my age or said anything about how young I looked. When I look back now, I realize that instead of saying, I don't want to get married, I just kept trying to show that I wasn't going to be good at it. In the religious part of the ceremony, the imam didn't question my age, and he conducted the whole ceremony in Arabic. I was the only one who didn't speak Arabic, yet nobody told me what it all meant. I do recall, though, the one thing, the same community who cast my family out and made threats to us, were now back into our lives, and they were celebrating our weddings. My father had gotten what he wanted. By marrying 2 of his daughters as child brides, he had regained his honor and status within the community. Next came the registry office, and I prayed inside that the registrar would notice that I was a 16-year-old. But the ceremony went ahead as normal. And on the day of the wedding party, I was told to pack my things. So as I started packing, I put my pop star posters with my things. I knew I wasn't allowed to, but it was my only way of holding on to my childhood. On that same day, a family friend came to me, and she told me that a white bedsheet would be placed in my things and that I must return it to my family. I had no idea what she was talking about, but I nodded respectfully and said yes. The wedding party was horrible. I was told to stand there and smile, but not too much, just enough for the hundreds of photos being taken of the newlywed couple. And after the wedding, we were sent off to a hotel. In the hotel, I sat on the bed, and this man who was now my husband was just talking at me. I didn't really understand anything he was saying. His vocabulary felt so grown up. He placed his hand on my hand and he tried to kiss me. And I flinched in fear, naively saying to him, "Can we please be friends?" But he snapped immediately and he threw everything outside directly at me. I grabbed a pillow to cover my face. He cursed at me, closed the door, and left the room. That night, I locked myself in the bathroom, still in my wedding dress, and it would be the first time I started to self-harm. The pain took me away from the miserable reality I was facing. He came back in the early hours of the morning, and he didn't notice my cuts because he had other priorities. We got in the car and he drove me back to my parents, and he said to them, "We're still not husband and wife. There is something wrong with her." My mother was horrified. She said, "The community will think you're not a virgin." I didn't understand any of the language and the conversation that was happening around me. I just sat there, desperate for my parents to see me. And the conversation that was happening around me. I just wanted them to help me. But it breaks my heart to say that in that moment, my mother explained to me what the white sheet was for, and I was sent away with my husband. I tried everything I could to prolong this. I made excuses, but nothing worked. About 6 days later, I returned the white sheet to my mother, and I felt a part of me dying. A few months later, when I was helping my mother cook, I noticed that the smell of cooking made me really sick, and she suggested that I might be pregnant. I was confused. How could I be pregnant? I didn't even know how pregnancy happened. And going up in a gene size and throwing up every morning hadn't even registered to me. I was living in a complete daze. But I went to the GP and I had a pregnancy test and it was confirmed that I was pregnant. My immediate reaction to the nurse was, "I don't want his baby, can you please take it away now?" To which she replied, "Well, maybe you should have thought about using contraception." The nurse knew that I was 16 and that I was married. My family were absolutely ecstatic at the thought of their first grandchild. They told me that having this baby would make me love my husband. I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew the ugly truth in which had led to this pregnancy, and I couldn't bear a physical reminder of this for the rest of my life. So I had an abortion. See, I never accepted the marriage, and every time my husband would say he doesn't like something, I would try to use that to make him dislike me. Silly things like hoop earrings and high heels. These little acts of rebellion were all I had to make him not want me. I was so desperate for him to say, "I don't want you." After the abortion, I secretly took the pill. But his family would call me from Kurdistan and they would pressure me into getting pregnant again. They would say there was something wrong with me. Under all this pressure, I found it so difficult to continue with my education, which really hurt because this was my only escape. All of my teachers knew that I was married and they knew my age, yet none of them ever said anything about how this was affecting me and my education. A year into her marriage, Banaz moved back into London, and the four of us, me, her husband, my husband, and Banaz, moved in together. She started enrolling at my college, and we became closer than ever. It felt like the good times. Banaz was the only person who witnessed what I was going through in my marriage, not only because she was living with me, but because she too was going through the same in her marriage and much worse. That following summer, Banaz decided she'd had enough. She left her abusive child marriage and she moved back in with my parents. She was becoming happy again, she's becoming herself. She'd met someone and she'd fallen in love. But in the eyes of the community, another one of my father's daughters was dishonoring the family name. And so the rumors started, and death threats were being made to both Banaz and her boyfriend's life. Started making reports to the police about these death threats. My sister went to the police more than 5 times. On one occasion, she handed the police a handwritten note naming her harassers. In January 2006, Banaz disappeared. Men in my family and those named on the list immediately became suspects and they were arrested. And while the police were investigating, a safety alarm was placed into my home, but I bravely lied and I told my husband that it was CCTV. I knew fully well that he would hate this, but I saw this as my chance to get out. And I was right. For the first time, he was scared to be violent to me, fearing that he too would be arrested. So he gave in. He said he would divorce me, but on one condition: that I accept all the blame, because he wanted the community to know that I was a bad wife. Of course, I'd done nothing wrong, but I took the blame just so I could get out. For the 2 years that I was married, I asked desperately to be divorced, but both him and my parents would never allow it. And so many times when I felt like giving up on life, because I thought I'd be stuck in that marriage for the rest of my life, I was finally going to be free. 3 long months into Banaz's disappearance, the police found her body in Birmingham. My sister had been murdered for leaving her child marriage. When I turned 18, I finally got my divorce and I arranged Banaz's funeral, all in the same month. My father, my uncle, and 3 other Kurdish men were tried and sentenced to life imprisonment for Banaz's murder. Losing my sister has been the worst thing that has ever happened to me. And yet, it somehow allowed me to get out of my marriage. None of this should have ever happened to either of us. And when I look back now, I'm absolutely outraged at the number of people who failed to protect us, the number of adults, social services, the GP, the registrar, the imam, the teachers, and the police. Today I'm showing up on behalf of my 16-year-old self, my sister Banaz, and any child who is at risk of child marriage. Childhood up to 18 should be a time to learn, to grow, and to pursue your dreams, not to be married and raped. Under the current law in England and Wales, child marriage at any age is not a crime. This means that children are not automatically protected from non-registered, cultural, religious, or child marriages which happen abroad. And a child can get married at the age of 16 and 17 with parental consent. And we know that amounts to parental coercion, as I've clearly demonstrated through my story. The onus should never be on the child to have to speak out in order to get protection from child marriage. It is all of our responsibilities to do something about this. Child marriage must become a crime.
For me, it started with a song. My parents are the heart of both my good and bad memories of my childhood. But before I tell you about them, I want to make it clear from the start that I don't blame my parents. I blame the culture they are tied to. My best memory of my dad is me and him singing a rap song by Nas, an American hip-hop artist. Big boys and girls, listen, you can be anything in the world, an architect, a doctor, or maybe an actress, nothing.
Let us all take a journey down memory lane, shall we? I want every person in the audience to recollect those childhood days when you were young, about 10, 12 years old, naive, and got through the days without the burden of any responsibility. It was a joyful period, wasn't it? I still remember pushing the merry-go-round so fast that I fell right off and broke a tooth. And while I was still trying to process what had happened, a friend brought me the tooth as a souvenir. In retrospect, I wish I did keep it for memory. But Come to think about it, having a perfect childhood is overrated. Not every moment in time is filled with happiness and laughter, and perhaps our idea of a perfect childhood is not the reality of every child in India. As per the statistics, about 12 million children in India get married by the time they reach 10 years of age. To put it in perspective, that is the population of Jammu and Kashmir. Child marriage is rampant in both rural and urban India, and it's a pressing issue for many states. But today, I'm here to talk to you about the plight of the girl child in Shravasti. The concept of childhood fails, as most of the girls in Shravasti get married by the time they reach the age of 12, and some of them have kids even before they're eligible to vote. For the 12-year-old Suman, it sunk in that she was getting married when the ceremonial turmeric was applied on her hands. Little did she know that marriage meant much more than applying vermilion on her forehead. She was inconsolable, but she did not share her apprehensions with anyone. She was the first among her friends to get married, and her parents did not even tell her before fixing her marriage. So, who could she go to? So, little Suman told herself that this is the way of life and that there was no escaping it. What Suman did not know was that the law protects her against child marriage. Well, sure, child marriage is illegal in India, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's abolished or punished. Take the past crime records, for example. In the year 2016, there were 4 cases reported under the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act in Uttar Pradesh, and the acquittal rate stood at a 0%. Clearly, formulating a law and practicing it are two very different stories. When I met Savitri for the first time, she was a happy kid. She was 14 years old and she was the best in her class. And she was also the only kid in the village who wanted to talk to me about herself. But she didn't know that women could have careers. When we sat down to brainstorm, though, she started imagining what she wanted to do, right from being a teacher to an Anganwadi worker, and then she finally settled for being a police inspector. She was married then, but she hadn't started living with her husband. During another visit a couple of months later, I found Savitri in her house, where she was now visiting from her husband's house. She was wearing a sari, her plucked eyebrows constantly strained, and she hardly smiled. Savitri's husband was working in Saudi Arabia while she was taking care of his parents and family back home in his village. She wasn't being allowed to work, unlike what she'd been led to believe, and she wasn't reading any of the books she had taken with her either. All day long, she was restricted to taking care of the house. I started documenting these precious girls in 2015, and ever since, I've encountered dozens of them, and all their stories remain the same. A girl child is born, and she is gifted with the responsibility of taking care of the household. If she is fortunate, she gets to put on the uniform, and she starts to believe that she'll be independent in the family and life in general. But her dreams come to a bitter end as she approaches puberty, because with puberty come in marriage proposals. These girls may be from different ages and from different backgrounds, but their stories and their situation in the family broadly remains the same. I document these stories because I think they need to be told, because we can't pretend like all is well in the world. And no, the problem doesn't get solved by just educating the families about the ills of child marriage, because it's much bigger than that. It lies in patriarchy, poverty, poor health facilities, lack of government subsidies and policies for those who need it desperately. And if we were to depend on education for solving this problem, it would take a generation before we see any sort of considerable impact. And we don't have the time for that. But with this knowledge,
During sex, I was crying and begging him to stop, but he didn't listen. Then he put his hand on my mouth like this. I couldn't breathe, and I was crying, but he used me anyway. And I just cried. My age is 8.
The practice of child marriage is common in many parts of the world. It's not exclusive to any particular religion or society. Despite laws that forbid it, long-held cultural traditions die hard. If the current trend continues, more than 100 million more young girls will be married over the next decade.
They were decorating my hands with nugs, but I didn't know they were going to marry me off. Then my mother came in and said, "Come on, my daughter." They were dressing me up and I was asking, "Where are you taking me?" They just said, "Come, come," and then they performed the wedding.
Child marriage occurs in more than 50 developing countries around the world, and almost always results in the girl's removal from school. What families don't realize is that by curtailing girls' education, they're only perpetuating the cycle of poverty. Still, families do this for a number of reasons. Perhaps they can't afford to feed the rest of their children. It can create family alliances, and it often settles debts. Early marriage often results in abusive and even deadly consequences. As one Afghan policewoman told me, girls are routinely seen as family burdens, while their male counterparts are seen as kings. She was later murdered by the Taliban.
I was 7, 8 when I was engaged. My father and his father, they wanted to exchange their children. That time I thought of committing suicide.
I was married when I was 7 years old. I always say God is punishing me for something.
One of the reasons that child marriage continues to prevail is the husband's family, and the husband think that when they bring a girl into the family when she's so young, they can mold her to be exactly what they want her to be. And there is this sense that somehow the man is raising this child as his wife.
A good wife should be respectful of the groom's family because she's now going to live with them. We don't call a woman beautiful by her looks, but by how nicely she takes care of her house and her husband.
He was trying to have sex with me, and I was crying, and I kept struggling to free myself from him. He mocked me, saying, "Where are you going to go?" Then he used me.
I was a woman exchanged for someone else's wrongdoing. My father-in-law and my husband, they were all with the Taliban. My father-in-law took me out of the house to a mountain. I thought they would kill me or behead me. I did not think he would cut my nose and my ears. The blood came over my eyes. I didn't know where the blood was coming from.
My friends were not getting married, and it was only me, so I didn't like that. So when I saw my parents preparing the feast, I knew they were definitely going to give me to a husband. So I escaped. I was about 14. The person who gave me a ride, he raped me while we were on our way here. So I was devastated. I regret coming here, and I wish I had stayed with my family because the person who raped me didn't use a condom. He introduced me to a broker who got me this job as a prostitute. After 15 days, I found out I was pregnant. I started getting sick. I struggled as much as I could and worked as a prostitute until I was 9 months pregnant.
In some cultures, there's this myth that by marrying young virgins, AIDS will be cured. Many times they start having sex immediately because they have no control over the situation. The husband is the one who rules. Older men who have sex with younger girls tend to have sex more frequently.
I don't know how children are made, but they get pregnant and they deliver a baby. They carry it inside their stomach. Then they deliver and it comes out a baby.
There will be no kiss for the bride at this wedding, nor will the couple dance after the ceremony. In fact,
I prayed.
Sorry, guys. One more, then I'll start talking. Anybody wants to come on after this?
براءة الطفولة. ايش ذنب الاطفال ما تتزوجوهم كذا؟ يعني مثلا انا بحل مشكلتي صح؟ بس بعض الاطفال براءتهم ما يحلوش مشكلتهم، يمكن يموتوا، يمكن ينتحروا، يمكن يفعلوا اللي براسهم.
No, Afghan, they're not, mate. YouTube world are though, aren't they? It's loads in there. Syia live. She's awake from it. And these people just don't get it, yeah. We're trying to protect little girls from any background.
We are building the biggest Islamic center in the biggest city in the world.
I've been there, I've seen it, an amazing community doing some amazing work.
The only thing that they need right now is bricks. That's where you and I come in to get some big rewards.
The Prophet ﷺ said that Allah loves the grand matters, and the biggest Islamic center.
So, because of posing this, because I've been opposing this, and a few other people have been opposing it. Well, quite a few actually. And this is why we're getting attacked, getting called all kinds. Quite frankly, it's crazy. We're trying to spread awareness and saying this is wrong. And it's unbelievable in this country we're allowing it. Children are children. Children should be able to be doing child thing, not marrying an adult. Then you have a silly little twat in the chat coming, doing something really serious. But why don't he just come out and say at his chest he wants to promote this as well, instead of keep on trying to defame me. Or say it with your chest, it's wrong. Yeah, look at her, mate. I can't say your name, but you're totally right, mate. You're totally right. Yeah, he should be ashamed of himself, Jordan M. And it just makes you think now in this. Just makes you think in this country, when people want to advocate this, have they got paedophilia tendencies? It looks like it. You know, they will stand out of school, outside of school, and they don't want their children to be sexualized and that. And obviously that's the Muslims who don't think about this child marriage and they don't like it themselves. But then this happens. This is allowed in their culture. I just don't get it. I really don't get it. Oh, anyway, I'm just going to go on mute, make a coffee. Look, I'm going to just call you Look. Can you change your name a little bit, mate? I can't really. This is not about religion. Me personally, Afghan, this is not about religion for me, yeah? Or colour or anything. This is about children, and that's all it is. Okay, mate. Anyway, welcome, mate. Welcome. I'll see you about. Do I know you? And you've just changed your name, have you, mate? Anyway, welcome, mate. You made some good points. It'd be good to have you on the panel, mate. If you want to one day. Look at a D. What made you say? What made you do that name? All right. Oh, you're the Ross crew, mate. Well. Look, if you're from the Ross crew, mate, you're very welcome. Mate, you're very welcome. If you're from the Ross crew, anybody from the Ross crew, you're always welcome. Guys, I'm just going to go on me. I'm just going to make a coffee. My new kettle sounds like a spaceship. So give me 10 minutes. Look a dick. Why did you call yourself that? Was that just for the wash show? Look a dick. Actually, that's made me laugh, that name. Oh, mate, look, you have the courage to come on the panel. I want somebody with some humour as well. You got some fine points. I want you to be a regular panelist. Afghan, I want you to come on there soon. You could disguise your voice. But I know, but you guys run the chat really well. So, but look up, boop. You come on the panel sometime. Have a giggle as well. It's not all about seriousness. It's all about having a laugh as well. I'm just going on mute to make a coffee. That's okay, mate. Long to behave yourself and contribute and be great. That's good, mate. Yeah, but I bet the wasp thinks it was funny. So, actually, I thought it was funny. Look, there's lots of names. There is lots of names. Come on, they are quite funny. Look, you're not nasty to other people. I don't care, mate. Mate, you're always welcome on the panel, mate. Come on in. You've already contributed in the chat. And, yeah, we need a debate. Yeah, because they've got a sense of humour, mate. That's why you went to the right channel, didn't you? You went to the right channel there, mate. They got a great sense of humour, mate. You're not going to get kicked off from there. He mods everyone, doesn't he? He mods everyone. Look, Dick, if you got any friends of that, bring them over. Yeah. Sometimes it's serious, sometimes it's fun. It's an open debate channel. If you've got anything to come off your chest, no matter what your views are, as long as they're respectful with them, come on and have your say. Yeah, they've done a late one, haven't they? They've done one on the Zoom thing, haven't they? That's why I've only got 6 here at the moment, the little sods. No, big up the Wasps crew. Always welcome. Okay, mate. Anytime. Normally I start at midnight. I normally do the after shows and that. So when people are awake. But the last couple of nights I haven't been doing them, man, because I've been falling asleep. But yeah, you will see some late slots. So I am appalled with some of the things that have been said on YouTube about regarding towards children. I'm really appalled by it. To the lengths of people, when you speak out against it, they try and smear your name. Me personally, I'm not going to stop talking about this. I've been talking about for all children. I stick up for all children, and don't matter who they are. Children need to be safe from vile predators, and we got them in all communities. Paedophilia doesn't see any colour, and what I've had on YouTube and hearing on YouTube how people are advocating child marriages, it's just sick. And I don't care what colour you are, what religious grounds you are, it's got to stop. I talk about with the Catholic churches, I talk about everything. We need to stop all of this fuckery. And I'm afraid we have got a government who are allowing it to happen. So there's so much evil in this world. It's just mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. Bit in shock what I've heard out of people's mouths and their reactions to try and shut you down. No, I'm not going to be shut down. So anybody wants to jump on, I'm going to leave on mute. I know it's early. I've got a short show this morning and that's it. I'll most probably be back on about 10ish. But I'll see if anybody's lurking around. Oh, you have to show me that, mate, because I'm into my music. I'm into my music. Look.
You're the only one I think about, the only one I care about, thinking about you day and night, I just wanna get it right, Ooh, yeah. You're the one I'm thinking of. Come on and take my love. Let's go and we can fly away. We're taking off.
Yes, I found a site for no copyright music. Just thought I'd play some music till people wake up. I found a site for non-copyright music. I'll show you it later, and it's quite good. I can't, Kaz. It's copyright. I've just found a site for music for non-copyright.
We gon' break up, then we make up. Act like we're gonna be friends. There's the fire, take me higher. Need it all over again, all over again. Leave it all over again, all over again. Leave it all over again. We gon' break up, then we make up. Act like we're gonna be friends. There's the fire, take me higher. Leave it all over again, all over again. Leave it all over again, all over again. South Central service to Brighton, fast to East Croydon, then Red Hill, Gatwick Airport, Three Bridges, Morecambe, Hayward Heath, Rupelsfield, Burgess Hill, Essex, Preston Park, and Brighton. Customers, London Road, Old School, Falmouth, and Lewis, also home and stations to Worthing, should change at right.
Talking about blue skies, talking about sunshine, driving with the top down, feeling free. Talking about you and me. Talking about smooth sailing on calm seas, feeling all flowers and bees. Talking about you and me. I was working boys and waiting tables, just going through the motions day by day. Then along out of the blue came someone oh strong and able, knocked me up my feet, swept my heart away. Talking about blue skies, talking about sunshine, driving with the top down, feeling free. Talking about you and me. Talking about smooth sailing on calm seas, feeling all flowers and bees. Talking about you and me. Ain't it funny how life turns and changes? One fine day it all just rearranges. Try to see it coming, but it knows you all the same. Talking about the day I first learned your name.
Oh, you're on about the other one, Afghan. That's a famous photo, that one is, mate. It's actually real. Oh, okay, mate.
When I call up, I just say I'm in town. I get no share. One, do you think I'm having for dinner tonight? Well, it's not this. Definitely not this rabbit food. Why? Because this is going to do nothing but leave me craving this.
Come on, Afghan. Get funky.
dance upon you. I ain't gonna mess with you if you don't mess with me. All I ever wanted was to be alone and free. I don't care what you think of me. I don't care what you think of me. Well, mama, take it easy, 'cause you know what I like to do, yeah. I spend my time with anyone you know, lady, talk to you. Well, I'm a strange woman, and you know how I like to be. All I ever wanted was to be alone and free.